It's time for another day at the workbench. Today we look at the budget build of the AK-74 and compare it to a much more expensive but maximum recoil build to compare it to. It's an amazing weapon that you can get unbelievably cheap. So let's get to the workbench, grab your screwdriver, plug in the drill and... As always in this build series, we only use items from traders level 2 and you find all the items in the description below in case you don't know the names exactly. So different than from other guys, we don't start off with buying the weapon. Instead, we are going to craft it. Because at your local workbench level 1 or 2, there are two recipes that are very interesting. Which combined lets us get an AK very cheap. First part of this plan is to get an AKM VPO. Now this gives us two weapon parts. Then you take one of the weapon parts, add an AK handguard and a stock, and there you go, you can craft a full AK. And you don't even need the workbench level 2 for that, you can also craft the AK-74N at the workbench level 1. And it doesn't matter if you pick the N or the M for this build. And the amazing thing here is the price, because an AKM VPO costs around 15,000, meaning you get a weapon part for 7,000 something. The handguard and stock are also very cheap, so that you can get an AK for 10,000 rubles. But it wouldn't be one of my videos if we couldn't get that any cheaper. Because the AKM just needs to be functional, so you can remove every other part from the weapon and sell it for around 4,000 rubles, meaning you save another 2,000 on the AK in the end. And 8,000 for an AK is really amazing. But okay, now that we have the gun, let's start modding. And we first start with the stock. And as usual, let's look at the possibilities we have. And as you can see, you can pause the video if you want to take a closer look. None of the others comes close when it comes to budget to the combination of the free stock and the rubber pad. Then in terms of pistol grip, I strongly believe that 4 more ergonomics is not worth 5,000. But that's for you to decide, so if you want one, then go for the SAW. I sometimes like to take the PP grip just because it looks better in my opinion. But you really don't need another grip. The weapon will have more than enough ergonomics in the end. Then let's look at the muzzle devices. Now first the silencers, they have very bad stats. They don't cost that much, okay, but the stats are just horrible. But the most silent one would be the PPS if you want to take one of those. But the best choice for a budget build is the DTK muzzle brake, only 5,000, and it gives you more recoil reduction than any of the others. There are of course other choices, but those are not available at traders level 2. Then let's move to the handguard, and there are a couple of choices in the budget range, but none of them can mount a grip and a tactical device, except for the all famous AK Polymer handguard, as usual. But I would advise against buying a grip. Grips are very expensive for what they offer, because 1% recoil reduction isn't that much for the money. Instead, I would just use it as an option that if you find a grip in raid, you can attach it, which happens a lot, at least in my raids. For tactical devices, it's really up to you what you prefer. The cheapest one is of course the blue laser. I like the X400 because I can toggle between a laser pointer and a flashlight, or again, pick none at all and just mount the ones you find in raid. They are again very easy to come by, especially from dead scavs. Then we have a couple of different ways to mount a scope. First one being using the Bastion cover. And there on top I use the Cobra scope, but you can pick whatever you want. Just be aware that the Cobra is the cheapest one and also one of the best for that price. But there's also another way to mount your scope, and that's via the side mounts. Just be aware it costs a bit more. The only reason I see it being viable is if you want to use the OKP side mount. You could of course also use the Cobra as a side mount, but in my opinion it just looks horrible. And I mean, at least for me, the weapon has to look at least decent. That's why I prefer the Bastion cover and just mount the Cobra on top of that. And as always, use the shade attachment, it gives you more ergonomics. Now if you want to assemble the gun, we land at around 25,000 rubles, meaning 32,000 with the weapon itself. But again, if you don't care about the look of the weapon, you could use the Scorpion side mount, and this will get you the weapon for 20,000. So including the weapon itself, it would land around 28,000 rubles, which is insanely good for what you get. So whatever you choose, buy all the parts and assemble the gun. And there you go. That's your AK for around 30,000 only. That's amazing. But now let's compare it to a better build, if you so will. So the standard weapon has a recoil 85, ergo 50, costs 8,000 with the little trick we did. Now we modded the weapon to have 15 recoil less, a bit more ergonomics, for around 24,000 rubles more. Now this max recoil build here, which lowers the recoil by additional 20 and plus 10 ergonomics, costs around 200,000 if you have to trade it. Without traders it's like 500,000. So those 20 recoil less cost you a fortune. And that's why I think this budget build is so great. It gives you a decent weapon with the least amount of rubles per recoil reduction. So go out in Tarkov and make Mother Russia proud. Thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoyed the video, smash the thumbs up. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section below. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye!